Well, thanks for coming out to the Bexley Public Library, everybody. We have some esteemed members of the Horror Writers Association here tonight. We're going to do discussion, share some stories and poetry. And before we get started, I do want to plug another program we have coming up here. Get my glasses on real quick.
May I have your attention, please? There are two programs at 7 o'clock. There is a resume and cover letter workshop presented by Jewish Family Services down at the Tech Center classroom. And then also join us for a night of horror stories, poetry, and discussion with the authors from the Ohio chapter of Horror Writers Association. Presenters include Lucy Snyder, Ethan Alabalka, Anton Cancre, Rami Ungar, and Tim McWhorter. Thank you.
Okay. Unfortunately, Nathan was unable to join us tonight, but he's here in spirit. I don't mean that literally, unfortunately.
That makes me sad. Nathan's a fun guy.
We have a program on zombies coming up. Just so you know, Zombies, the Anthropology of the Undead on Tuesday, October 29th. So, Rami, you are sort of like the master of the ceremonies here. That's safe to say you're dressed for it. So, I will turn it over to you for proper introductions.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rami Ungar. Though tonight I'm also Undead Alexander Hamilton. And there's a million things I haven't done because Aaron Burr shot me. So, we have some wonderful people here this evening. When I say your name, please stand up. Lucy Snyder, Bram Stoker nominated author. Tim McWhorter. I don't know if you're Bram Stoker nominated, but you're a great author as well. And Anton Cancre.
Most definitely not Bram Stoker Award nominated Anton Cancre.
But he is very entertaining to watch no matter what.
Ciao, 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 ciao.
So we're going to read some stories to you this evening. And if there's time, we'll have some question and answers. So if you ever wanted to ask a horror author what makes their mind tick, well, you can steel yourself because we have the answers. So who would like to go first?
All right.
Again, I'm Tim McWhorter. I'm a local author here. I live in Pickerington. I'm a graduate of Audubon University. Mostly what I write is realistic type horror. I do some ghost stories, maybe a creature feature once in a while. But I don't do like the apocalyptic horror, cosmic horror, things like that. Basically, what I write about are everyday people who find themselves in a really bad situation. I write both short stories and novels. Most of my short stories are too long to read in here tonight. So I'm actually going to read an intro to one of my short stories. I don't normally do intros for short stories, but I feel like this one needed a historical context. And I'm going to read a prologue from my upcoming novel that nobody's seen or heard yet, so exclusive. The first story is about a crybaby bridge in Oklahoma. If you're not familiar with the crybaby bridge, the legend goes that you go up to one of these bridges late at night, wait long enough, you'll hear the sounds of a baby crying coming from below. There are different variations on crybaby bridge. Some deal with like young lovers, but I chose to focus on the crybaby. I invite you to look into them. Every state has them. There's some here in Ohio. Feel free to check them out. This is should have done that first. This is the introduction to my short story, The Bridge. By the light of a hunter's moon, Eva Marie Cobb shuffles her way down a dusty country road. The insides of her thighs are thick with fluid. There wasn't time to clean herself before. There isn't time for anything but this. A stray stone pierces the bottom of her bare foot, a reminder that not all pain can be so easily discarded. She cradles a bundle tightly to her chest. With the chill of the night air, her rapid breaths rise in evidence of her hurried pace. The shivering makes her muscles ache. It's October, yet her matted hair is damp with sweat. It clings to her face. The stench of a nearby skunk crosses her path. It mixes with her unsettled and empty belly, bringing bile to the back of her throat. She retches, but quickly continues on. There is no time to waste. She tosses another glance into the moonlit road behind her. Her fear comes not from the dark, but from being discovered. At the bridge, she puts one foot on the wood, worn by time and use, but hesitates. It is as if an invisible threshold confronts her, and once crossed, allows no turning back. She knows this. She's crossed it twice before. Unsure if this will be the last, she can only hope. She takes a cautious second step, then a third. The cold planks sting the bottom of her feet. She continues, one creak after another, until she comes to the middle of the bridge. The steel railing beckons her. The bundle sleeps soundly, without so much as a murmur, unaware of what's to come. Through the gaps in the wooden planks, Eva can see the boggy creek flowing. She wonders where it leads, where they end up. The babies her daddy puts inside her. She slowly makes her way to the railing. She can remember a time before it all began, before her mother passed and her father started looking at her the way he used to look at her mother, before the bottle eroded his conscience. She remembers it still and holds the memory of that time more dearly than anything. Her memory is all that remains of the good man her father used to be. It is all that remains of love. Standing at the railing, she looks down at the black water. With a sudden gulp of air, she reaches across the top rail. The bundle hangs suspended over the water. 40 feet below, the rushing river awaits. The sound reaches her ears. She closes her eyes. Before she can change her mind, she releases the bundle. A tear falls as she waits, listening for that sound to signal the end of her ordeal. It takes only seconds for the splash to reach her. She remains at the railing, second-guessing long after the river has drowned all the tiny muffled cries. But there is no turning back, not from this. The echoes of the baby's cry follow her all the way home. They rip at her heart with scraggly claws. They scratch out the remaining vestiges of the self she used to be. That night, her sobs lull her to sleep as she prays for a redemption she doubts she deserves. So that is the intro to my short story, The Bridge. We found in my latest book. It's called Let There Be Dark. It's a collection of 8 short stories. You can look that up online if you're interested.
All right.
I do have one more. Another short. Sorry. I should mention that, sorry. The second piece I have to read for you is the prologue to my upcoming novel. The story is about a theater that is repossessed from its original owner, has plans to renovate and turn it around. This doesn't sit well with the original owner, and you're about to find out why. This is the prologue to my upcoming novel, Smoke. A crowd had gathered. Some were tourists in town for only a week, soaking up as much sun and sand and surf as they could before returning home to stressful jobs and binge watching Netflix from fully formed ruts in their couches. Residents of Angler Beach made up the rest. Most knew the old man, many for as long as they could remember. The more compassionate among them ached to do something, to stop what could never be undone. It was perhaps the acrid fumes or the fear of getting caught up in the combustion that kept their feet rooted in place. "Don't do it, Floyd," one of them shouted. "It's not worth it," cried another. If the old man heard the pleas, he paid them no mind. Raising the gas can above his head, he drained every last drop before tossing it aside. The red can tumbled end over end down the concrete steps. It came to a stop on the sidewalk, landing at the feet of those deeming it safe enough to stand witness to what was certain to be a horrific display. The fuel streamed down his face. It stung his eyes. He coughed as the fumes constricted his throat. He choked on the lack of clean air. His lungs threatened to collapse. To simply breathe quickly became a struggle as he reached into his pocket for the second half of the equation. He pulled out the lighter. "Somebody get help. Somebody call Helen." Clutched in his hand, he held the gold Zippo he'd had since Korea down and away from his body, as if not wanting to see it, as if the sight of it might cause him to second guess. "Somebody please, do something." The old man turned his back on the crowd and looked upon the doors of the Chamberlain Theater. His theater. A rusted chain snaked through the long Gothic-style handles. The two ends converged at a padlock that hung in the middle. Taped to the glass, a simple white sheet of paper, bank letterhead across the top, barred him from entering as much as the chains. He imagined the doors free of constraint, welcoming as they should be. It wasn't difficult. He'd owned the theater for over 40 years, a damn lifetime. Memories replayed themselves, one after another, as gasoline dripped off his nose, his chin, and pulled at his feet. He remembered the day they installed the heavy, custom-built wood doors that opened the auditorium. Remembered it like it was yesterday. Remembered the morning the marquee sign arrived, polished and majestic, strapped to the back of a flatbed truck. It had been a proud day, one the entire village of Angler Beach had come out to share. From that day forward, the Chamberlain Theater was no longer an afterthought, sought only when rain had washed out the summer sun and surf. It had become the anchor of the town center. His beautiful wife aside, the theater was his life, the patrons his lifeblood. He needed nothing else. The Chamberlain filled his hollow, childless void. Now those days were gone, thanks to an economy in the toilet and bills that never stopped coming, even after the patrons had. Countless afternoons he'd spent alone in his office, brainstorming ways to bring in more business. He failed at every turn. And when the bank had foreclosed, repossessed, and sold the theater out from under him, they may as well have filled and handed him the gas can as well. An hour ago, he kissed his wife's cheek while she slept beneath the roof he could no longer provide. He was too proud, too ashamed to see that his failure reflected in her emerald green eyes. He fed the cat, scratched behind her ears the way she liked, then quietly closed the door behind him. On the steps of the theater, before an ever-growing crowd, he raised the lighter to his chin. Sensing the end was near, the crowd's chorus of pleas swelled. Cries of his name filled the crisp morning air. And as a lone, brave soul, unable to stand idle any longer, charged up the steps, the old man took one last stagnant breath. He closed his eyes. He spun the flint. The story of Floyd Cropper setting himself on fire on the steps of his beloved theater made the nightly news all along the eastern seaboard. Self-immolation wasn't something that happened in everyday America. The fact that this tragedy occurred in such an idyllic coastal town made it all the more sensational. The press ate it up. Arriving by the van load, they stuck cameras and microphones in the faces of anyone who had something to say about Floyd. And it seemed everyone had something to say. Even those who didn't know the man knew someone who had. It was the most attention the town of Englewood Beach had received since the late 80s, when the young Perry brothers skip capsized and their bodies were lost. But 72 hours later, when word broke of sexual assault allegations against a powerful media mogul, everyone outside of the quaint coastal town forgot all about Floyd Crocker. And the restoration of the Chamberlain Theater by its new owner quietly began.
All right. And you, Anton, Lucy, do you want to go next? Or?
I'd rather not have to follow Lucy, because nobody wants to have to follow Lucy.
Why do you think I went first?
That's exactly this. I'm gonna get up and wander while I do this because that's just I get antsy. So again,
Is that what you're
apologize in
doing?
advance for how obnoxious I'm being tonight, but that just helps me out. And also, I've been drinking a bunch of caffeine because that makes sense. Okay, good. I'm not seeing any kids out there, so I can go with the original title list. Devil Done Fucked Up in H-Town. Sure, you can take my word for it, or leave it. I'm gonna say something like that. I can't say I'd listen to a lick of this nonsense were I in your place. Ain't the sitch though. And I hereby honorably swear that you are not neck deep in rising, rushing river of my vocal fecality. At least not at the moment. See, hell, none of it was anything I expected none ways. I mean, yeah, old Chuck wrote that ditty. Good enough one. Full of fun and full of braggadociousness. And I think somebody even had it playing on the juke at Arnie's that night. Not a soul's foot wasn't set to tapping either. I wonder if he was the one. Slick joke, if true. Either way, it was just a damn song. Nothing to the ramblings of some harebrained hillbilly, regardless of how well turned his phrasing. Doesn't help his case, they seem to honestly believe that a race of alien lizard people controls every government. Guess he was the metaphorical broken clock. I mean, not a digital one, but like one with the hands and all. Preferably one so broken that the hands never moved. Otherwise, the whole metaphor kind of falls apart. Now, I haven't taken my meds yet today. Who the fuck cares? Whatever. Point is, I was over at Arnie's, just like every Thursday. Eyes practically floating in the skull from the JB. And no, before you start in, that doesn't explain any of it. Jerry was with me. And yeah, he's a douchebag and an idiot. But none of that don't matter down here. He can account for his own part of matters. I mean, who disregards the words of two drums, eh? So I was partway through working up a gal for the night. I know I ain't pretty, but my tongue's as slick as anyone's. I would have closed the deal if that red-haired asshole hadn't butted in. I mean, I ain't bitter, but ass is ass. And regardless of what I think of Agnes McConaughey from Daybreak, she had enough to go around. But that fire crotch put an end to my line of attack, leaning in between us, talking about what a sporting man he was, that I could have anything I want so long as he could ask the same of me in the bargain. A simple wager. Winner take all that rot. Now some hayseed comes busting his ass into your game, ragged mop of wiry red hair flopping all over the place, bound to get a bit pissed off. Pulling a fast one on that fool was just about the only thing to make up for it. So I pulled him in close, grabbed him by the arm straps on that stupid, cliche pair of overalls, and leaned in real tight over his ear. That's when I whipped out the loudest yes I could. Now this idiot, this flaming moron, he smiles big at me. I mean, real big. Damn mouth stretched like Play-Doh near meeting in the back of his head. Teeth just huge, bleach white gravestones looming over us all. And then he says, this doofus, he actually asked me what my game is. What's my game? Really? I mean, shit. You know? Shit. Boy didn't know it was about to drop on him. It was karaoke night, you see. Just like every Thursday down at Arnie's, and really most any other day. Really, so long as you have the guts to walk up there and pay $1 for the juke. The stage was bare, looking a bit forlorn in the flickering light of a pair of old 100 watts. So I pointed right up at him. Told the fucker he and his gold fiddle might do okay up there, but so might me and my trusty Beatrice. I patted my right pants pocket when I told him this. That deep one that Randy done took out for me so that my dear lady could have a place. I still say that elementary music teacher got that one thing right. Ain't nothing like the sweet music or the soft reeds of a good recorder. Take that to the bank. So I told him my price. An 81 Lincoln. Stretch. Black. Beautiful. Just the kind of thing to turn heads when you're rolling down the street, you know? Chrome grill, chrome hubcaps, chrome shift knob. Whole thing had to be shiny. Told him I was sure a fine individual like himself could get a hold of one easy enough. I just wanted to see it first. Just relax. And damned if he didn't pull at that one, like total belly laughs and everything. His stupid fucking hair bouncing and bouncing around like a star exploding. But I heard a horn beep out front, right outside the big old plate windows. This jet black, gorgeous beast positively glowed in the lights of the parking lot. But those rims, man, those rims were like the bright light of heavenly grace. I could hear it speaking to me of love and dear dreams born in its engine through the undulating pulses it emanated. Yeah, I already told you, I can't take them on an empty stomach. Can I finish? Thank you. Of course I knew it wasn't a one-way deal. He had to want something. Maybe my Chevy, you know, blue. Or more likely my sister, though I don't know why he'd come through me for her. Not particular secret that she'd sucked the siding off the trailer for a pack of Newports. Now, he rambled for a bit about ineffability, the translucence, and the transcendence, and how we don't need the things we don't use, and some nonsense about photographs and the traditions of Inuits. Later on, a bit thick, to be honest. I mean, as if I didn't go the Duke one myself. As if I never watched the fucking Simpsons. He offered to let me go first. All buck teeth and overdone bowing with a huge flourish of his arms. As if he was doing me a favor, letting me set the baseline. I know that game. Everybody knows that game. Didn't I? I had him regardless. So I took the stage, whipped out my quarter, and went to work, alternating between blowing and singing. Now, y'all seen what I got. You know I killed it. Jane Ferguson threw her skirt over her head halfway point. I mean, of course, she'd been knocking back beams since noon, but still, wasn't no shortage of hollering, that's for sure. I had to give this shit kicker his run then. Had to let him take his place. Even ended up letting him borrow Beatrice on account of him forgetting to bring his own. I mean, what kind of old scratch doesn't bring his own instrument? Unprofessional, if you ask me. The lights dipped further than normal. Say what you will about side effects and neural misfirings, but truth is truth. And the place just got dark. Except him. As the plastic met his lips, the most wondrous notes filled the air. Forget the mighty G. This guy, angel, whatever, could work a woodwind, even when no wood was involved. Old Bill was weak enough. Old Bill, for Christ's sake! I mean, it was done. I was done. So it was they stepped down from the stage, hand outstretched. Laid on some bit about solid effort. When I reached back, I stumbled. Not an artful move, no grace to it at all. I hit the floor in a ball before unfolding flat on my back. And the gentleman, he reached down, grasped my arm, and pulled me up into it. Also pulled the boot knife, the one I'd slipped into my offhand, into his open flank, right up under the ribs, just like Dad taught me, straight into the liver, before slipping out and around and back to kiss him in the kidneys. As his hands fell to the wounds, I swung up and around for just a double poke to the throat. He fell. Now I got the prettiest car in town. I also know a new tune, if you want to hear it. That was the gentleman fucked up in H-Town, which hasn't been published anyway.
All right, so I'll go next. And my name is Rami Ungar. I'm a local author. I live over in Whitehall, and I was lucky enough to publish a novel with a publisher this past June, Rose. Prior to that, I self-published 4 books, but this is my first with a publisher. And I'm going to read to you a passage from chapter 1. Okay, this is weird. Where the fuck am I? I look around. I'm surrounded by a sea of vegetation. Flowers and shrubs in hundreds of varieties, sitting in pots and trays atop a grid of workbenches. Surrounding the workbenches is a ring of trees that tower over everything, their upward growth halted by a glass ceiling. A literal glass ceiling, not the one topped in my classes. Past the trees, I spy more glass, through which nothing can be glimpsed but total darkness. I'm in a greenhouse. Why am I waking up in a greenhouse? I try to think back, but I can't remember anything about how I fell asleep. In fact, I can't remember how I got to the greenhouse in the first place, or where this greenhouse is located. Am I supposed to be here? If so, why? The questions make the pounding in my head hurt worse. I forced my thoughts to quiet long enough for the pain to subside to a dull throb. Able to think again, I try to remember what I was doing before I found myself here. Nothing comes to me. Okay, no problem. What's the last thing I do remember? Walking home. Yeah, I was heading home after meeting with my advisor. I had my textbooks and lesson plan for the coming semester in my bag. I crossed the street, turned the corners at Potbellies, and approached my... What kind of home do I live in? I strain, but there's a gray fog obscuring my memories, and the word for the kind of building I live in is missing. I should know this. It's an everyday word. I push, but the gray fog doesn't lift, and the word doesn't come. I skip forward to the inside of the building, but that's also washed with gray. Concerned, I rewind and get as far as the building where my department is housed, but I can't remember the name of the building. That can't be. I've been taking classes there for... I can't remember how long I've been taking classes there. At least 4 years, because I was accepted into the graduate program. The exact number of years eludes me, as does the building's layout, the people in my program, my teachers, and my advisor. It's all gone. I can't recall any of the classes or projects I've done as undergrad, though somehow I do recall the information I've learned since. My breathing quickens and I put a hand over my chest. Why can't I remember anything? Okay, slow down. What do I remember? Let's see, my name is Rose Taggart. Last I checked, I was 21 years old and I'm a sociology grad. Yeah, I'm a sociology grad specializing in criminology. And I remember the stuff I've been learning in my classes. Statistics, theories of social constructs, plus the work I was doing on gun violence. I'm a graduate at the Ohio HWA, second in my family to attend this university. I also have 2 sisters, Hope and Madeline, and a brother, Brian. Brian and Hope are older than me, and Maddie is younger. Hope is my other sibling to go to OSU, while Brian betrayed all that was holy and went up north to the University of Michigan. Maddie's in middle school. My parents are Roger and Barbara Taggart. My dad is I can't remember what my parents do, which is insane because it's why I've had to work to attend college. Why can't I remember any of this? What's happened to me? I must find someone who can explain to me what's going on, a doctor preferably, or the greenhouse caretaker. I slide off the table I'm lying on. As I do, two things come to my attention. I'm wearing a pink strapless dress, which I can tell at a glance costs more than I'm used to spending on clothes. The other is the dress and table are covered in roses, red, pink, and yellow ones with long thorny stems, some of which falls to the ground as I swing my legs off the table. I bend to pick one up, careful not to prick myself on a thorn, rolling the blossom between my fingers, admiring the beautiful pink color and the soft velvet sensation of the petals. I normally don't care for roses. Too many people have made jokes about my name for me to like them. But right now I'm curious. Who sees a sleeping woman in a dress and thinks, sure, let's put roses on her? Abruptly, the rose dies in my hand. The pink, fleshy petals turn black and crinkly, while the stalk becomes brown and brittle. I drop the rose and stand, alarmed. On the workbench and on the ground, roses wilt and die before my eyes. What the hell? As the flowers die, my eyes light on something lying at the foot of the workbench that's not a rose. I lean forward to take a closer look, only to jump back in horror. Lying in a pool of its own blood is a large brown cat, stomach slit down the middle, its intestines hanging out like the contents of some grotesque pinata. The cat's face points in my direction, frozen in an eternal expression of surprise, as if it too can't understand what has happened to it. My hands fly to my mouth, my heart pounds against my chest, and my stomach heaves. I step back, tripping on the hem of my dress, falling onto my back. I cry out, my stomach gives another tremendous heave. Dead roses crackle underneath me as I heave myself up to all fours, my red hair tumbling past my shoulders. I wait, feeling something moving up my esophagus. Oh God, I'm going to be sick. I'm so going to be sick. Something's wrong. It doesn't feel like normal nausea. It feels like snakes are moving through my chest and into my neck, around my esophagus rather than inside it. This isn't vomit. It's things, creatures, long and round and snake-like, dancing underneath my skin. Images of thin, black serpents moving around my trachea flash through my mind and panic rises. What if they bite and poison me with venom, or strangle me from within? My hands dart to my neck, though I'm not sure if I'm figuring out what's under my skin or trying to claw out whatever's moving around inside of me. The things in my neck zoom past my hands, twisting around my windpipe, cutting off the flow of oxygen to my lungs. I open my mouth to scream, but nothing comes out except a reedy whisper. The things in my neck are pushing outwards at the skin of my neck, sharp tips boring through like tiny drills. There's 8 in total. The points where they push form a ring around the circumference of my neck, like a deep tissue choker of pain. My chest burns, my brain screams, my strength is fading, darkness creeps into my vision. I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to survive. I won't find out what's happened to me. The things in my neck burst free, long and green and snake-like, each about 2 or 3 feet long. They swish whip-like through the air, blood flying off them, splattering plants and tables. Pressure on my windpipe vanishes, and I suck in a deep breath before exhaling a pain scream. God, it feels like I've been stabbed 8 times in the neck, only whatever stabbed me came from inside. Words like freaky and unreal don't begin to cover the situation. The whip stops swishing and hangs still in the air, furnishing me a moment to think of a real name for them. Tentacles, I sighed. They are tentacles, like an octopus or a squid. But why are they coming out of me? Before I can find an answer, a pair of tentacles lash out and wrap around the leg of a workbench. Another pair wrap around the leg of the workbench opposite. The last 2 pairs wrap the ground below and the top of the workbenches above. Then the first pair unwrap and lunge the leg off the one in front of me, wrap around the leg and drag me forward. The second pair do the same with the workbenches on their side and pull me forward like a rag doll. I cried as the tentacles work in unison. They crawl forward like a strayed insect, carry me along on a frightening ride. I feet tightly grab at something, anything to cling to, but my frantic fingers repeatedly miss their purchase. My third attempt leaves my hands raw. I stop and allow myself to be carried, all the while, sobbing with pain and terror. The tentacles clear the workbenches and climb a short stone wall up to the soil bed where the trees bask. Tentacles stop and I lay, half on, half off, the soil bed. While they hover, smelling the air like dogs, before I can wonder what they hope to inhale, the tentacles crush to the soil, plunging deeply till only a few inches, close to my neck, remain visible. The tentacles begin to pulse. Spasms rack them from deep within the earth, up their length and into me. I shudder and try to pull away, but the tentacles reclaim me, burrow deeper and pin me against the dirt. I can't escape. Tears make rivers down my cheek. I'm scared and bewildered. My neck front and agony. What's happening with me? I whisper aloud to greenhouse. To find that out, you can purchase copies of Rose on Amazon. I also have a few copies in my car if you're interested, and I'm pleased to announce that an audiobook should be coming out sometime next month, so I'm very excited for that. Thank you.
All right, my name is Lucy Snyder, and I'm also a local writer who sends me a theme here. I live up in Worthington. I'm going to read the opening story from my most recent collection, which is called Garden of Eldritch Delights. This book was nominated for a Rami Ungar Award and also nominated for the Shirley Jackson Award, which was pretty exciting. In terms of work that I have coming out soon, I've got the story that I'm going to read for you is in the Night Fair books, which is a new imprint of Tor books. They just released a pretty large horror audio anthology that's got work in there by like China Naval, Paul Tremblay, a lot of other really good writers. You can download that for free on Google Play if you're interested. I'm also writing a Lovecraftian space opera that's being serialized by Broken Eye Books. The next chapter should be up in the next couple of months, and my Lovecraftian Southern Gothic YA novel, The Girl with the Star-Stained Soul, will be out from Curiosity sometime next spring. And this is a story called That Which Does Not Kill You. It's odd how the pain doesn't register at first. You wake to an ill stickiness coating your arms and belly, the sheets dark and stiff, the sour stink of copper in the air. Mind blurred and eyes blurry, you wonder where your girlfriend Ashley is. Why are you awake so early on a Saturday? Has something happened? Is there something you're supposed to do? A neuron fires. You have a morning coffee date with Brenda. You two first met at the fencing club in college and kept discovering friends and interests in common. She became a steadfast bestie. But lately, you've been too busy with Ashley to keep up with anyone else. There's an itch between your breasts, so you sleepily try to scratch it. Your cold fingers find slashed skin, the ragged hardness of your broken sternum, and the torn cavity beyond. Your sliced aorta and pulmonary vessels feel like calamari, fleshy cannelloni and congealing bolognese. And then, as your fingers trace the severing, that's when the pain hits. Agony is too small a word for what you're feeling. You try to scream, but your lungs are deflated balloons, pierced by the same angry gashes that took your heart. Collateral damage. Your lover was not exercising the surgeon's precision last night. Nothing but bile rises from your throat. Wordless, weeping, you throw off the sheets and stagger to your feet. You're certain you should be dead. The pain is so horrible that you want to be dead, but you're still moving. Still alive? You stare down at your trembling gray hands and your blood-smeared naked body and wonder, what kind of life is this? How long can you possibly go on like this? There's a trail of blood on the carpet leading out of the bedroom, and your only thought is that if you can just find your card, maybe everything will be okay. Maybe the pain will stop. You follow the blood down the hall, down the stairs to the living room. Ashley's there, and so is her boyfriend Kurt. They don't see you right away. He's kneeling by the bookshelf, stacking her movies and hardcovers into a cardboard box. Ashley's put on her Cornell University tank top and the old jeans she usually wears to pottery workshops. Kurt's wearing his usual weekend outfit of track pants and a t-shirt advertising some brand of protein powder. He works at a gym supply company and has a million tees. You can't remember if you've ever seen him wear anything else. He must have some nice clothes. He travels to health clubs around the country to pitch new products, and the upscale fitness centers probably expect the salesman to wear a suit. Besides, Ashley likes the kind of restaurants that don't admit men without their ties. Ashley met him at her gym, and she likes to go on business trips with him. They were just traveling workout buddies at first. At least that's what she told you. But she also told you on your second date that she doesn't do monogamy, so Kurt was never much of a surprise. The living room is full of moving boxes. Most are open and only half filled, and you spot the base of shells the two of you each combed in the Bahamas, the ukulele you bought her in Maui, the shot glasses from Vegas, the red scarf from Montreal. 5 years of mementos. For the first time, you realize you were best together when you were far from home. But no relationship can cruise 30,000 feet forever. She's pacing beside her boxes, nervously flicking her gray box cutter's blade in and out. Click, click, click. Her hands are covered in dry gore all the way to her elbows. It looks like she's wearing ragged brown opera gloves. And then you're remembering your third date when you went to a fancy dress ball in a downtown loft, and you both got tipsy on the host's $100 champagne and then went up to the roof to make out like a couple of schoolgirls. Her lips were so soft. You feel a reflexive pang of worry. Has she cut herself? But no, she hasn't. It's all your blood. That mild epiphany makes you dizzy, and you stumble on the stairs and nearly fall. The couple startles at the thumping of your unsteady feet. For a moment, they both look shocked to see you standing there. Kurt blushes uncomfortably at your nakedness and looks away, but Ashley grimaces in frustration. Damn it, Emily, can't you just stay out of the way like I told you? She snaps. You don't remember her telling you anything. You gesture toward the gaping hole in your chest and manage a strangled moan with a little bit of air left in your lungs. Well, what else was I supposed to do? Ashley crosses her arms, still clicking the box cutter's blade. I told you I can't sleep with your heart beating so goddamn loud all the time. You have the fucking loudest stupid heart I've ever heard. You want to ask her why Kurt's heartbeat doesn't bother her. Maybe his broad weightlifter's chest muffles the sound better than your skinny tomboy body does. Maybe he's got a teeny tiny heart in that mighty rib cage and it's far too petite to disturb her delicate ears. More likely, his heart beats just the same as yours does. But he's new and you aren't, and so he hasn't gotten on her nerves yet. After all, your heartbeat didn't seem to be a problem until your trip budget dried up. I'm a sensitive person. I have very acute hearing. Ashley crosses her arms and points the box cutter at me. I told you to do something about it, but you didn't. She's got the truth from your mutual history. You did do something. In fact, you did many things for months. First, you tried sleeping with a pillow over your chest. Then you moved downstairs to the sofa at night. But she complained she could still hear your heart through the wooden floor, so you bought her a white noise machine for the bedroom. For a while, that seemed to satisfy her, and she often let you sleep in your own bed with her again. On your birthday, she bought you a very sharp pocket knife, a pretty little thing with a curly handle. The surgical steel blade was etched with the Latin inscription for peace and quiet. You laughed, thinking the inscription was a joke. You'd have done almost anything to make her happy, but silencing her own heart was not one of them. But Ashley did always like to take matters into her own hands. You're a complete disaster. She's staring at the ragged, leaky hole she put in your chest. You are a monster. Standing there in mute torment while she harangues you isn't getting your heart back, is it? The blood trail leads through the living room to the kitchen and the patio door, so you stagger after, weaving along the rusty dotted line like a drum. Oh Christ, don't go out there, Ashley says as you fumble with the handles of the French doors. Have some self-respect. The neighbors will see you like this. Trying to ignore her, you push into the backyard. It's a cool, sunny late September morning, and the leaves are just starting to turn yellow and orange. Your heart is out there, still beating. You can hear it, but no matter where you look, you can't see it. Ashley seems to hear it too and shudders. God damn that thing. You follow the sound of an old apple tree near the fence. Someone, maybe, or Ashley if she dragged her stepladder out here, has impaled your heart on the broken stub of a small branch jutting high on the trunk. Despite all the damage, it's beating loudly, vainly pumping air, the valves clacking as if they're mahogany castanets. Maybe it's absorbed some of the tree into itself. It's covered in tiny black ants that have marched across the bark. If you concentrate very hard, you can feel the sting of their bites and the itch of their crawling legs. You reach up to try to rescue your heart, but it's well beyond your grasp. You jump for it, but your knees buckle and you collapse onto your back at the bottom of the trunk, exhausted. All you can do is stare up at your speared, severed flesh. This is exactly why I can't live with you. Ashley stands over you, her fists on her hips. You're so fucking dramatic about these things. You're just broken. Tears well up in her eyes. I can't be around all this negativity. Goodbye. She turns on her heel and walks back across the yard. You continue to stare up at your clapping heart as you distantly hear the motor boxes in Kurt's truck. The agony has faded into a dull, hollow, all-consuming ache. Your strength is gone. You can no more stand up than you could sprout wings and fly into the sun. In the periphery of your vision, you see the neighbors peek over the fence like nervous prairie dogs, then duck back down. Nobody calls out to you to see if you need any help or offers any. You wonder how long it will take the tiny stinging ants to devour your body. A little afternoon, you hear the fence swing open and the grassy squish of footsteps approaching you. Well, shit. It's your friend Brenda's voice. You remember that you were supposed to meet her for coffee. With great effort, you raise a hand to wave at her. Brenda comes closer and leans over you, concerned. She's dressed casually in a light gray sweater over dark denim leggings, but she's got on a nice pair of red leather pumps and a pretty turquoise necklace. It occurs to you that while she's not dressed up for a date, she's put thought into her ensemble. Her care might mean something more or not. You're just glad to see her. Wow, she says. She really tore you up, didn't she? Is this the second time this month? You raise 3 fingers. Damn, girl. You mutely point up at your heart. Oh, yeah, that would help, wouldn't it? Brenda kicks off her nice shoes, pushes up her sleeves, and nimbly scales the trunk. She used to be a gymnast. Everybody needs a friend who used to be a gymnast, you think. Soon she's back on the grass, and she takes your heart over the garden hose to rinse off all the ants. You feel a bracing chill as the water washes over it. She returns, and you accept your damp heart with cold, quivering hands. You awkwardly pack it into your chest and pull your flesh back together. After a couple of minutes, you feel warmth spreading back into your chilled limbs, and you can finally take a breath again. Thank you, you gasp. De nada, she replies. How did you know I'd be back here? Ashley posted an Instagram with a bloody box cutter. When you didn't show at the coffee shop, I had a hunch. I didn't mean to stand you up. So sorry about that. Don't apologize. Just promise me that you won't hook up with her again, okay? 3rd time's the charm. You cross your scarred heart. Never again. Have you just told a lie? What will you really do when Ashley inevitably severs Kurt and comes back to you with her soft champagne lips? Brenda's holding out a strong, steady, gentle hand, so you take it and pull yourself to your feet. You meet her eyes and find yourself surprised that in all the years you've known her, you never noticed the flecks of gold in her hazel irises. Brenda blushes a little under your wondering gaze and bashfully looks away. At that moment, you know in your aching core you've told no lies. You are done with Ashley. If she comes back, you won't be home. So, do you want to get dressed and go get that coffee, she asks? I don't mind waiting if you need to shower first. You smile, and remember that she only likes coffee shops because you do. How about we hit the barcade for pinball and whiskey and breakfast burritos instead? Now she's smiling too. Deal.
So I believe we still have some time left. Would you guys like to ask us some questions?
Yes, I'd like to, interested to know your favorite horror novels, stories, whatever, one of those things, or it could be a story, whatever, a poem even, anything that really stands out for you guys.
Well, my current favorite horror novel is Kill Creek by Scott Thomas. It's a modern gothic horror novel, and honestly, I recommend it to just about anyone who likes to be scared. It is a real haunted house story that will stick in your mind. So, I recommend going out and getting it.
What's the name of it again?
Kill Creek.
Hill Creek.
I read a lot, so I have different favorites in different categories, but if you're talking about Lovecraftian fiction, Victor Laval's The Ballad of Black Tom, which came out a couple of years ago, it's actually a novella, but reading it, you will think you've read a full-blown book because he just packs so much story in there. The Ballad of Black Tom is really good, and I love Caitlin Kiernan's work, and her novel, The Drowning Girl, is particularly good.
My favorite changes all the time. Probably the book that got me into horror was Nathaniel by John Saul back in the mid-'80s. I read a book the other day that I really, really enjoyed, or last week. It's called The Catacombs by Jeremy Bates. He has a series of books that take place in real places, mysterious places. This one obviously was set in the catacombs in Paris. He has one on the Doll Island. He has one, it's called, I think it's called the Helltown, and it takes place here in Ohio, for the Helltown. the village or whatever that is now deserted. Those are really good. I like those.
As far as novels go, I have two that I regularly get. Well, one that I've continually gone back to over the years, so I'll start with that one. Dread and the Beast by Charlie Jacob, who just passed away not too long ago. But a book that's about a goddess of shit, first off, is a hell of an odd thing to go with. But it's, for being such an odd premise and incredibly violent, but she does a really good job of keeping it really heartfelt and keeping it grounded, and no matter how weird it gets, keeping it grounded in the humanity of the people and the just horrible things that we do to each other. It's not a fun book to read in any way. It's absolutely heartbreaking through most of it, but she still manages to find positive things in the course of that. That to me, I can't not go back to that book. It's available through Necro Publications. I highly recommend buying it because it's amazing. And then the other one, Nettie of Horrors, Who Fears Death, is like, I know it's not, it's supposed to be like fantasy, sci-fi, but it's horror. The things that the main character goes through in the course of it are absolutely horrific and terrifying. They're grounded to a certain level in reality, but there's enough separation that's workable without being like too constantly heartbreaking. But then at the same time, the fact that she finds this way out of that it's all about the journey away from the horror and about breaking from that and getting better than that is a really, to me, like that's the end. Like there's an old statement about fantasy that fantasy stories not only tell you that dragons are real, but that you can beat them. To me, horror stories verify what we all know: monsters are real, but also tells us what we need to know, and that's that monsters can be beat. Both those books are really good at getting that across.
What was the first one?
The first one is Dread and the Beast,
Right.
and that's by Charlie Jacob. Are there any other questions?
Yes, when you're developing your characters for your books, is there a certain place that you like to read or write when you're developing your characters? Is there a certain place that you go to? Do you have to be outside? Do you have to be inside?
I get a lot of my characters. I'm an observer. I'm one of those people. When my wife is in, Macy's or whatever, I'm the one sitting out there with the other husbands. No, I'm not necessarily watching the sports, the TV. I'm watching the people, and I'm cataloging interesting little tidbits, the way they walk, the way they, interesting characteristics, things like that. So I'm always cataloging, and then sometimes I'll think, oh, this person would work great in the story I'm working on now, or this other story that I have planned. So that's kind of where I get a lot of my character.
Anybody else?
When I'm coming up with characters, I'll just figure them out wherever I am. It's not really a place-specific thing to me. Sometimes while I'm at work, I'm coming up with characters and stories. Sometimes while I'm writing, or sitting at my desk. Sometimes when I'm in the shower. Sometimes when I'm in bed. Just really depends.
Writing horror, do you wait for that stormy night to go up into your quiet space to write, or
If I waited
can you just sit down and write anywhere?
I can sit down and write anywhere. If I waited for a stormy night, I would only write like a few nights out of the year.
I'll tend to start a story with characters. To my eye, the best way of ensuring that you've got an organic plot is that you have to focus on the characters and their desires and conflicts. That's what's got to drive the story. Anytime I'm starting a story, I'm thinking about character. And I tend to be a binge writer, so I try to set aside longer stretches of time to write. Once I get in the mode of writing a story, I'll, want to keep working on it for quite a while. I know some people who can write in, little 15 or 20-minute bursts, but that doesn't really work for me.
Mine, I don't even remember what the game is, but there's something where you're supposed to just add this on the end of whatever people say. But for me, it's in bed. Like I lay around in bed, and usually my dog's curled up next to me. But yeah, like they were saying, with the characters themselves, finding people that deal with horrific things, unfortunately, isn't. I wish it was harder to find. I really wish it was a lot harder to find horrific things that people have to deal with.
Do you guys have a different creative process between short stories and novels, or is it sort of the same? Or are there particular challenges you're finding there?
I kind of missed what you were asking. Could you repeat the question?
Oh, sure. About short stories versus novels. Are there particular challenges to either one, or are they sort of along the same lines?
For me, they're not the apples and oranges that some writers seem to think that they are. I mean, there are a lot of the same mechanics that are involved with both. Writing short stories involves a lot of compression. It involves a lot of figuring out what the most direct spine of a narrative is, starting fairly close to the end of the story, things like that. I kind of think of a short story as running a sprint, whereas a novel is definitely a marathon. Novels require, more planning. They require more thinking about, the complexities of the plot. A novel can support a much more complex plot and a much larger cast of characters, so you've got more elements to kind of juggle in there. With a short story, it gives you the freedom to kind of play around and experiment with an idea that maybe you don't want to dedicate, 6 months or a year of your life to, but you can work on it for a weekend and complete it and kind of feel like, okay, I've tried that thing, and now I can move on to something else. Or you might come back to it later and expand it into a novel.
For me personally, the novels are actually kind of easier for me. That's what I grew up trying to write. I'm very used to doing a lot of research and just spreading out, having these long, complicated story plots. Trying to squeeze something into 10,000 words, or about 40 pages at most, which is usually a lot less, is pretty difficult for me. Trying to keep things compressed that much and still get a good reaction. And I just try and think to myself, what is the best way to upset a reader's inner zen? And that, in as few words as possible. Am I successful? Well, I'll leave that up to the critics. But I like to think that I'm coming along.
Within the writing community, there's the debate on whether everybody asks, are you a plotter or a pantser? Basically, do you outline or do you just wing it, fly by the seat of your pants? I kind of do a little bit of both, kind of like what Lucy said. For my novels, I'll do a lot more plotting, maybe not necessarily hard and fast outline, but I will kind of plot chapters ahead. And if I don't stick with that, that's fine. But sometimes the story will take you in a different direction. With short stories, I pretty much start usually around the beginning or somewhere and just go. It doesn't require nearly as much plotting for me. Short stories are more short, small window in time, and it doesn't take nearly as much planning or plotting. So for me, I just kind of pick up the pen or the laptop and run with it.
With me, in all honesty, large concepts terrify me so much. So, and most of the stuff I do is pretty short pieces. I tend to work in a lot of short fiction and poetry. The only time I did something that I've done things that were long form, there are 2 poetry collections that I've done that have like overarching characters and things with that. And the only way I found to be able to get a large thing done was with those, because I did them in little pieces of poetry. I could do like, okay, tonight I'm gonna knock out like 1 or 2 poems. That's workable. I won't be too stressed out. And they're kind of self-contained, so I can be happy with that. and then stop and then deal with the rest later and not overly freak out about whether or not it's going to get done. That works somewhat for me. But the idea of writing a novel is just, I can't. Like, I don't know. Maybe one day, but really, ugh.
So would you say that you guys are born writers, or is this something that you, a skill that you've developed? You know, when you were little kids, you're like, I'm gonna be a writer, or is it something that you came to as adults?
Can I jump in with my
Sure.
fuck talent comment?
Yes.
Fuck talent. I hate that term because there's a certain amount of like the desire to do it is kind of a boring thing. I'll give you that. But just like anything that you love, whenever people talk about talented people, what they're meaning are people that loved it enough to put in the effort to be skilled at it. Everything takes work. Everything takes a lot of work and a lot of getting shit wrong. So much getting things wrong. And that's part of the process. It's okay to get the stuff wrong. No matter how much I have to remind myself with my ever-growing stack of rejections, that it's okay that I'm getting things wrong because I'm learning from that and getting better with those times. But at least me personally, I don't think it's like nothing is something that you are born into. If you want it, you can do it, but you got to be willing to work for it and learn the skills to get it done.
Yeah, I've always been a reader, lifelong reader. In high school, I would jot down really bad song lyrics, things like that, but I never really tried to write actual stories until I was probably mid-30s. When I went back to college, I had a couple ideas, and I kind of dabbled a little bit. I took a couple of creative writing courses, kind of got the juices flowing, and it still took me several years to get to where I'd actually show people anything, except for professors, things like that. But then it just took mostly short stories. Then I kind of pushed myself. Let's see if I can write a novella. I wrote a novella. Okay, well, let's see if I can do a novel. And now I'm 3 novels in, a novella, several short stories collections, and not looking back.
Yeah, I was certainly born into an environment that facilitated this a great deal. My parents were both readers. They both had a lot of books. They valued books. They read to me when I was a little kid. When I first started learning how to read, there were some books that really captured my imagination, and it occurred to me that somebody had made this. You know, this wasn't something that somebody had plucked off a tree. Somebody had sat down and written this. And I thought, you know what, if I could grow up and do this, that would be really, really cool. So I had the idea of becoming a writer pretty early on, but it was definitely tied to my, learning how to read. And I'm sure that if I'd been thrown into a very different environment, where I didn't have that opportunity, where I wasn't around people who value books and love storytelling, things would be very different. So.
Yeah, I was born into a family where reading was very much emphasized, and I do think a lot of us are born with the desire to write. I mean, a lot of us as kids, we would draw with crayons on pieces of paper, and we would think we were creating like the equivalent of an award-winning novel or movie just with our crayon strokes, but it really takes a lot of work, a lot of dedication, and to grow that talent or grow that desire into actually into actual results. Well, for me, it was Harry Potter. Reading that for the first time made me want to write Harry Potter, their stories, or Harry Potter fan fiction. And then over time, I just kept writing stories and pirate stories, magic stories, werewolf stories, caveman stories. I came across Stephen King, and then I started writing vampire stories, and did I mention vampire stories? And then other kinds of monsters and ghosts and stuff, and you guys can guess the rest. It just took a lot of dedication.
Have you ever been out running around and came up with an ending to a story and thought, man, that'd be a great ending to a book or a novel, and then have to develop the rest of the plot and story around that ending that you thought would be a great ending to a novel?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Not an ending specifically, but I've been out and about doing whatever, and an idea or something, a prompt like, oh, that sounds like the basis for a good story, or that I want to feature that sort of character. It happens all the time. It just earlier today while I was at work, I was thinking about this costume, and I imagined to myself, what would happen if someone dressed like me with this sort of makeup was seen on the street multiple times over the course of a week or something. So I've been developing a story about that all day.
Sort of like the clown, how the clown would show up.
Yeah, but unfortunately the clown's been done quite a bit lately.
Yeah, I've done that as well. I mean, some stories don't always come to you from the beginning. Sometimes it's the middle, sometimes it's the end. I've written stories around titles before. Got a really cool sounding title. I'm like, okay, that sounds like this kind of story. I have to write the story just so I can use this title.
I got an assignment to write to a title at one point. I wrote this is an anthology that's coming out in November, but the editor said that the title of the anthology was The Porcupine Boy and Other Oddities, and he wanted me to write a story called The Porcupine Boy. And so I had to sit down and figure out, okay, what would fit this? So I think it came up with something pretty cool.
Yeah, so I mean, there any little bits, and sometimes those are, but the phones have been so nice for that, because then at least now I can jot down the thing if I forgot a piece of paper or something, and then remember later on. There was one time that I was at a concert and the singer mentioned some story about when she was a kid and she got really freaked out by the person in the Easter Bunny costume because she'd only seen like stuffed versions, and she yelled out, "No, he has bones in it!" and then ran away. And so I was like, there has to be like immediately, like, yeah, I jotted that down because there had to be something to play with in that. Those things can pop up all the time, and certainly you don't expect to have it. So it's nice to have a little thing that you can whip out and jot it down really quickly so you don't forget. Especially when there was a lot of drinking involved like that night. I would have forgotten if it wasn't for the phone.
I feel like I have so many questions that if I ask them all, I could monopolize the rest of the hour. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to ask two.
Okay.
The first one is, I have never heard of the Horror Writers Association. Where do I find out more information about it? How is one to get involved with it? And do you have to be a published author to be in the Horror Writers Association? That's the first one.
Yeah. If you go to horror.org, you can find out about the National International chapter. We do have our own chapter site, but it's just basically a placeholder to let you know that we exist. There are different levels of membership in the Horror Writers Association. The active membership, you have to have sold a certain number of stories at a certain pay rate. But to get an associate membership, you just basically, I think, have to have sold like.
That's for the associate member, because that's all I qualify for.
Right.
Is just if you just sold anything for any amount, or I don't even know if you have to have sold it for an amount. I think if you got something published at least,
Yeah.
but they may have a requirement like that you made some money. But basically, you got a thing published, you can be an associate member. The main difference out of it is that I don't think you can vote in the Stoker Awards.
Right, you can recommend works, but you can't vote.
Yeah, so I mean, like outside of that, you still have access to the their mentorship program, which is really cool. They've got grants that they offer that you can like work out ways to get money to help you out with writing things. They get just the ability to connect with other writers that can help you out with various stuff you need. There are a lot of really nice things about it, especially when you're starting out.
Yeah, access to the community itself is gold. You meet a lot of great people, bounce ideas off of each other, learn from each other. It's a good community.
Yeah, I love having this network to learn from. I ask questions in the Facebook group, and I get so many great answers. I get inspiration from coming to events like these, where I hear from you guys. It's been a great journey, and I'm so glad to be a part of it. Even if I only qualify for the supporting membership at this point, I don't think I've sold enough to qualify for the next level.
But you're getting there. Like, you've been hustling.
Yeah.
So, like,
I got
I've
your
been.
book on Kindle, Ron, so.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, I will tell you, if you follow Rami on any of the social media things or stuff, like, I respect the hustle so much. Like, he has been working to sell those copies.
Yeah, my philosophy is if I want to get a tenth of what I want, I got to work twice as hard as I think I should. So I'm glad to see that that's producing some results.
Right, so my second question, I think I have three. My second question. Are any of you academically trained in writing, or was it something that you just gravitated?
I am, but I was a writer before I got the academic training. So I do have a Master of Fine Arts in Creative Writing, but I got that a couple of years ago. I had already been selling books at that point. I mostly pursued it because I was in a position to do so without having to pay money for it, which I thought it would be dumb to turn down this opportunity, and also so that I would have the credential for teaching. So.
I have a degree in English and comparative literature, which doesn't quite really count towards that. I also have a certification to teach in the state of Ohio. So those are probably the closest things. I mean, I took creative writing courses, but I'll be honest with you. Some of the things, like, I'm gonna plug Lucy here since she's not doing this. She offers a ton of stuff through her Patreon thing. She knows her business really well. There are several other people that do things like this, that you can get the same kind of stuff that you would get out of creative writing programs that you pay for through a college or something like that, for significantly cheaper. And instead of the money going to a bunch of different people that aren't really doing any of the work, you're just giving the money directly to that professional that knows their business. So, you know, if you
There's
check
no
out,
math classes.
and you don't have to take any math classes in it either. You're just so if you go on Patreon and look up Lucy Snyder, there's some really good options for you there. And I've received feedback from her on works in the past that were tremendously useful to me. I'm not just saying this because, like, she's not giving me money or anything. Honestly, she comes very straight to the point. She's very honest with you, and everything she gives is very useful. And so there are other people, but she's right here. And seriously, give the lady some money because she's awesome at that.
I guess the upshot is you don't have to pursue formal education, but you do have to educate yourself. And there's a variety of ways of doing that. There are good and bad workshops out there. There are good and bad how-to books out there. So, you know, being a part of the network at the Horror Writers Association or another group, you know, can help you locate those resources and locate ones that work for other people. So.
Yeah. For me, I didn't receive any formal training until I actually got to college. There weren't any writing classes really offered at my school. But there are 100 different ways to learn, as they said. That mainly just by reading a lot and doing a lot of practice, you can learn. And make sure to read from a wide variety of authors. Otherwise, you just, like, for a while there was a time where I only read Stephen King, and I started to sound like a really bad King knockoff at one point. So, well, glad I got out of that.
So, last question. I would like to hear a little bit about your writing process. When you write, where you write, how often do you write, and how do you motivate yourself?
Well, let me just start by saying I have not been writing a lot this week, but that's because because I bought a new computer on Monday, and I immediately arranged for a data transfer from my old laptop, so I won't be getting a new computer here until tomorrow, which means I'm going to be making up for lost time throughout the weekend, if I'm lucky. When I am able to write those, usually in the evening, because that's when I have the most free time, I'll just sit in front of my laptop, in my chair. I'll usually have a cup of tea, or if it's the weekend, something alcoholic next to me. Usually some sort of music in the background. Generally, it's music from the 1980s or musical soundtracks, and I'll have some incense burning nearby because I just love the smell and it makes me feel creative. And I'm just trying to get at least 500 words down on paper, or if I'm editing, at least 3 pages out. So that's basically my process in a nutshell.
I will write something every day, but it might not be fiction. Like I said, I prefer to be a binge writer. I'm typically writing deadlines anymore, but I'll know that certain things are due at certain times, and so I'll be working heavily to meet one deadline, and then once that's finished, I'll shift to another thing. I use a computer. I don't write longhand largely because I can't read my own handwriting. That's real, kind of a block there. I use playlists a lot, particular music for particular projects. I listen to other instrumental music or soundtracks, or if it's vocal music, I prefer things that are not in English, because I find that listening to words that I can understand is really distracting, and kind of interferes with my thought processes. Other people, feel differently about that. But yeah, music's pretty integral. I don't write drunk. I don't even know how that works. Like if I start drinking, like the parts of my brain that form words just kind of start shutting down. So sometimes coffee, but never alcohol.
I'm the same as Lucy is. I have to have music as much as possible, and it is always classical or film scores, nothing with lyrics that I'm going to find myself singing along to. Again, it's just nice having that in the background. It settles me and calms me. I used to write a little bit here and there whenever I got the time, and I wasn't getting the production that I really wanted. So I started being more regimented about it, and that's when things started flowing more freely. I'm an early riser, so Saturday, Sunday mornings, while everybody in the house is asleep, I'm in the office typing away. And sometimes I'll get a couple hours in before anybody else even gets out of bed. Wednesday nights are always my night, or my wife and kids know I won't be home till later. I'll go to the coffee shop, or I like to write outdoors a lot. Go to the parks or go to the lake. And then other nights, I try to get some time here and there. But having that set schedule, knowing Wednesday night is like my favorite night of the week now. I'm looking forward to it. I get a little bit of time on Tuesday, but knowing that I have that Wednesday night free and set aside, knowing that Saturday and Sundays when I get some work done, that's when my production really started escalating.
For me, there's a lot of similarity. Like I do usually listen to some music in there. Certainly my earlier stuff I owe entirely to Dax Riggs, Acid Bath, Dead Boy and the Elephant Man, or his solo stuff afterwards. I ripped off him so incredibly much, to the point like the first story that I received money for, I actually put a thank you note to him in there, because that was basically, I'm just gonna sum up everything that I've taken from him, put it into one story, and then try to move on past that. I contacted him to get permission because I felt like I was ripping him off so much. Luckily, he was super cool on that and let me have the permission. Music tends to be a big part of the process for me. But something I've found recently that works more for me, besides like when I finally did try to do the long-term thing with the full poetry collection thing, is I had to start setting schedules for myself. Like, okay, I'll go into and set a deadline and all of that. Because I usually like, I have an idea now, I'll write it. And then like 3 months later, I'll have another idea and then I'll write that. And that's like about it. That helps setting myself with a deadline. And that was really an interesting experience for me because I was absolutely terrified that there's no way I could get this thing done. But I kept on saying, well, you know, again, just do these small pieces. Tonight, I'm going to get 2 done. Tomorrow, I'm going to get 2 done. 5 days a week, I'm going to get these couple pieces done. And then in 20 days, I'm going to have like a finished thing and it'll be pretty awesome. And I actually, like, when I managed to accomplish that, especially once I got about 3 weeks in and I was seeing like, crap, I have this huge amount of stuff now. Like it's 3 weeks in, I have 15 poems. I have never written 15 poems in a 3-week period of my life. Usually that's like a year for me. So I was like, yeah, shit, I can do this. And then like kept going through, and by the time it was done, I was like, crap, I can actually do something that's slightly bigger. And then more recently, I've found I really enjoy working with other people. Collaborative writing is generally something that most writers I know don't like doing. Writing tends to be a very personal thing. But at least maybe I've been lucky that there are a couple people I've been doing some stuff with lately that they're just awesome, and that may be entirely what the case is. Like they're people that I gel with really well. But when I hit those walls, I can't fucking think of what to say next. That's okay. I can hand the shit off to Laura, and then Laura comes bouncing back with something super crazy. And and I get so into reading what she put out that like, okay, I'm ready to bounce back into this now because you gave me so much to run with. And then when I run out of steam and I hit a wall again, I can hand it off to her. And then she's ready to go again, and we just bounce back and forth off of that. And it really helps energize me. It really helps me feel like, you know, I can get that done. And also because I am responsible to her, because I can't be messing up her day now. If she spent all this time working on these things, I better get my chunk written for her. That also helps motivate me because, you know, nothing like a good foot in the ass to get you moving on work that you need to get done.
Are there any other questions?
I know I have cards here that have my email address on there. If anybody has any questions, feel free to drop me a line and ask. I'll be more than happy to take time and answer questions.
I was gonna
So do I.
I do not have cards. I also don't have anything to sell, but I will heavily promote this. Any of you that enjoy writing, a friend of mine, Donna Monroe, runs a weekly flash fiction challenge, flash being like anything up to 1,500 words, or basically prompt gets put up on Friday. Stories are due by the end of the night on Saturday, and then people will put up critiques, very short, like really quick, like couple sentence things about your story. Just to give you some feedback on it. There's a voting on who wins out of the week, but all that you win is you get to pick the prompt for the next week. But the nice thing about it is it's, first off, really low stakes. There's no money involved, so you're not worried about looking bad. The community of people that Donna has been building up on this are really supportive. So that's great. There are some of them that are professional writers that have novels out. There are some people like me that have just published a few stories. There are some people that have published nothing at all and are just doing it for fun. There's enough of a range that you can get good feedback. And Donna used that to, like, she had like 20 stories in her backlog, and then using that to move forward over the course of a year, she went from the 20 to having 72 then, and then kept going on, and she started selling them off of there too, because she got into that habit enough that she was making good enough that she started making money off of these, 1,000, 1,500 word stories, that it worked out really good for her. It's fun. Obsidianflash.com is the website that you go to for it. It's a forum. It's also locked down, password locked, so your stuff is not considered published. So that means that you can then turn around and get it published later on, as compared to like if you put it up on Facebook or something like that. Then people can see it, it's considered published, and then nobody will ever give you money. So yeah, again, plug in that because it's really super awesome community.
I also have a few copies of those if anybody's interested.
And as I said, there are copies of Rose in my car for anyone who would like one right now.
As if anybody's
Everybody follow the dead guy out to his car. Nothing bad will happen, even when he's opening up the trunk. He promises it's because there are copies of the book in there. Also, some candy and really cute puppies.
Did I mention there's a satanic pentagram on the back of my car? That's how you know you can trust me. Well, unless anyone has any further questions, I guess I'll say for all of us, thank you very much for coming out this evening. It was great to have you. We hope to do this again sometime very soon. And happy Halloween, pleasant nightmares.